What's up guys, the new Grand Prix recap is here, and in this video I'm going to talk not only about the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix but also about the Qatar Grand Prix before it, because I didn't have time to make a video about it last week. So let's jump straight into it. Firstly, there are some highlights of this Grand Prix. I think that the best thing about it is Sauber getting points. You know, I predicted it before in the last video, so if you didn't see it, go watch it right now. But I said that they will score points. I thought that they could manage to score like 1 or 2 points, but Zhou managed to finish 8th, taking 4 points, which is great. The other great thing is that Max won the race, which, you know, as a Max fan, made me really happy. The other interesting thing about the last weekend was the beef between Max and George. In the qualifying, Max secured P1 in front of George, but at the start of the race, we realized that George took the place from him, because the FIA gave Max a 1 place grid penalty for going too slow on his outlap. In the interview, Max spoke openly about how he lost the respect for George. I think that the things he said might be true, because he is a guy that doesn't care what other people think about his opinion, and said the things that he thinks are true.
I still can't believe that someone can be like that in the stewards room. For me, that was so unacceptable, because I mean, we're all racing drivers, we all have a lot of respect for each other. We even, you know, play sports together. You know, you travel together, you know, and of course you have moments where you get together, you crash or whatever, you're not happy. In my whole career, I've never experienced what I have experienced in the stewards room in Qatar, and for me that was really unacceptable. No, it has nothing to do with him being the director of the GPDA. I just never expected someone to really try and actively get someone a penalty that badly, and lying about why I was doing what I was doing. But clearly it had an influence to them. Yeah, it was just really not nice, and actually very shocking what was going on there.
Other interesting thing was Lando getting a 10-second stop and go penalty, which destroyed the race for him. He had a great pace, and if this didn't happen, he would have probably finished second. He received this penalty for going too fast under the safety car, which came onto the track a lot that weekend. Now, the news before the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The first thing that I want to talk about are the drivers that are going to leave at the end of this season. This is going to be the last race for them, so I will expect it to get really emotional. The first one of them is K-Man. I hope that this guy doesn't decide that he wants to put his teammate on the podium, taking out half of the grid. The other 2 drivers are Zhou and Valtteri Bottas from Sauber. Especially Bottas had a great career, and it seems like he is looking forward pursuing another sport, which is cycling. Zhou, on the other hand, is most likely going to be a reserve driver for Ferrari, so there is a still chance of seeing him in the future. In this race, we will see the end of the Lewis's Mercedes era, which was one of the best dominations we were ever able to see. Since Lewis is joining Ferrari, we will also see the breakup of the Carlos and Charles couple. It will be sad, because this could be a last race in which Carlos will be in a car that can compete for wins or podiums. The fight for the Constructors' Championship will be also interesting, because Ferrari and McLaren have both a chance to win it, but it will be hard for the Ferrari boys, because Charles received a 10th place grid penalty. I don't know what it was for, but if I manage to find out why, I will write it down in the video. Also, the FP1 session for this weekend is also going to be interesting, because we will see plenty of new faces thanks to teams wanting to try out their younger drivers. The another big news is that Max will have a baby. I think it's funny because a lot of people are commenting that he will probably not be able to fit in an F1 car because he is pregnant. This is really great. But with Max becoming a dad, this could also mean that he will not stay in F1 for much longer. Which is sad, but I think that he can take at least one championship title before ending his career in F1. Another thing that I forgot to talk about is the end of Gasly and Ocon duo in Alpine. It's sad that this ended with Esteban Ocon not being the second driver for Alpine in this race. I think it was because of some testing he will do with Haas. I think that they could say a better thank you to him, because he is the only driver that won a race in Alpine, and he has been in a team for a really long time. But it's a pity that the most of the teams don't say good thank you to their drivers that are leaving. So that was it. Now let's go to the qualifying in Abu Dhabi. I have already told you how was this race important for many of the drivers. And in the qualifying, we have seen them perform really good, or most of them. Lewis Hamilton wasn't able to get out of Q1, and we were really thinking, is he washed now? But not really. He had an object under his car through the whole lap, so it was understandable, so his pace wasn't the problem. On the other hand, his ex-teammate Valtteri Bottas finished second in Q1, which I was really surprised about, because I didn't expect him to drive the Sauber cars that good. The qualifying wasn't really good for Charles Leclerc either, because he would start 19th in a race, combining the qualifying with his 10th place grid penalty. In Q2, Max had a really good attempt and decided that he doesn't want to try again. This was a really cool moment, and this shows how confident is Max in his abilities. But in the end, McLaren's took the first two places with Norris ahead of Piastri, who was hoping for his first pole position. Behind them was Carlos Sainz as a last hope for Ferrari's championship. At fourth place finished Nico Hülkenberg, which is crazy that he did that in Haas. Max, who had a strong Q2 attempt, didn't perform that great in Q3 and ended up in 5th place. But behind him, we have Pierre Gasly. In the last video, I said that this guy performs well only in 1 or 2 races a year. But I think that this year, he decided that the last 5 races are going to show how good he truly is. Behind him, there was Russell and Alonso. And in the 9th place, we saw Valtteri Bottas. This was his last qualifying, so we were really happy for him. Behind him, we had Sergio Perez. In this race, he could show Red Bull what is he actually capable of, and maybe save his place in a team. Surprisingly, immediately after the lights went out, the race became really interesting. In the first corner, Max tried to go for the inside of Oscar, but they touched and both of them spun. Few minutes after that, the other Red Bull has also got into a crash, with Valtteri Bottas crashing into Checo. Checo was the first retirement, and the race continued. There were several storylines to follow. Firstly, there was Lewis flying through the field, climbing the positions. But he wasn't the only one. There was also Charles, who seemed like he doesn't want to give the championship away that easily. Oscar also tried to climb the positions, but it was hard, because a few laps after he trash talked Max in a radio, he crashed into the back of Franco Colapinto. That meant that Franco had to retire in his last race with Williams. This gave Oscar a 10-second penalty, which Max also received. The last but not least, there was Max trying to finish great the last race of the season. I think that this race was more interesting than it was in the last years. We got Lando holding the first place for a really long time, but the Ferraris managed to climb behind him. Carlos tried his best to get behind the McLaren, but the Ferrari car didn't have enough pace for it. There was also interesting story between Mercedeses. I think it was 20 laps to go when Lewis, that was 17 seconds behind George, asked the team if he could get the 4th place. He got an answer that most of the fans didn't believe.
How big's the gap there? That's 14 seconds. 14 seconds.
You can do that.
He's on.
I realized that Lewis was about a second quicker than his teammate, and in the last corner of the race he pulled a clean overtake and finished 4th. I think that he probably hoped for a better end to his career, but this was definitely a race to be remembered. One of the drivers that we will not see in the next season is Franco Colapinto. He got really unlucky with Oscar and he wasn't able to finish his last race with Williams this season. I really hope that he can find a seat for 2026, maybe in Cadillac. The next 2 drivers that we will not see in the next season are Valtteri and Kevin. Both of them got really unlucky, crashing into each other. In the radio, we were able to hear some strong words from both of them. I have to also appreciate Nico and Pierre that finished great in the race. So overall, the last race of the season was pretty good. I enjoyed it, especially at the end when Lewis was hunting George. This is what we want to see from a 7-time world champion. Charles had his best comeback drive, climbing I think 15 positions. The bad season continued for Williams, with Franco not being able to finish the race and Alex not being able to get any points. I really hope that those guys can pick the pace up for the next season and maybe be able to get in a fight for the 6th place. So this is going to wrap up the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. It means a lot to me, and see you in the next one.